Good morning, everybody. I hope this video finds you well. This is part 2 of the parsing of the narrative where they remote viewed the tunnel of light. I was contacted by DM. DM is going to also offer his thoughts in video format. All this is going to be very, very exciting stuff. And today we're going to go talk about how does it work. Now, as I've mentioned before, so this is going to be a little confusing, so I want to sort this out. In this video, we're going to parse the earlier video that remote viewed the tunnel of light. And this is part 2 of that effort. They concluded in that video that the way this works, this mechanism of entrapment and reincarnation works, is due to a massive gravitational object. I have concluded, and it seems to be validated by the main commander, that it seems to be the moon and not some kind of invisible other body. Now, we're going to play the clip, what he's talking about, and you'll see very clearly that he's saying the remote viewing of the tunnel of light establishes a gravitational object that lenses and forces souls to come back. He doesn't say that there's a tunnel of light. He says there's a gravitational object. Pay attention. Watch it.
The process works is that Earth is shielded by a companion object. And we're not sure if this is a physical thing. I mean, we're dealing with a type, if this is a technology, it's a type of technology that's so far beyond what humans can even probably comprehend. It may as well be magic. I mean, it makes sense why one viewer probably uses this word, hocus pocus. It's so far beyond his own lexicon that it may as well be magic. So whether this is a physical object or not, we're really not entirely certain. It would make sense that it's not physical, but you can make a couple different, I suppose, educated guesses. Maybe it exists in a phased state, a different dimension, where this object is, this companion object that creates this net. We're really not quite sure, but it's most likely because we don't have the vocabulary or the comprehension to even understand how it exists.
Now, this is pretty critical, okay? It's a pretty critical point. He's saying that this all has to do with lensing of this large mass object. Now, if the massed object was invisible to our eyes, invisible to our devices, we would still be able to pick it up because it's a mass, a gravitational mass. Okay? Gravitational masses would upset the GPS systems and the geomagnetic flux gates that are used in all sorts of sensing equipment that we use in aviation. So we know that the only gravitational object near us is the moon. And the assumption is they don't have any words for it, but this gravitational object does something to the quanta that is comprised inside of the body and physical being that the consciousness resides within. Whether it's the consciousness itself or the physical container of the body, we don't know. And that's what they're talking about. Let's continue on a little bit more, okay? He spends a little bit of time going on terminology, saying we don't have a proper terminology, or the ones that remote view don't have a proper terminology. That should be well understood from ground zero, right? So let's go ahead and
so we're going to use words that we can understand. The mechanical aspect of it, the energetic aspect of it, the acting like in that, things like that. First viewer said it's a companion object to Earth. It's something that's powerful and magnetic, and it squeezes tightly around the globe. Another viewer describes it as a magnetic vice that is attached around a large place. It's a mechanical process that incorporates destructive chemicals, and an individual undergoes bombardment as they pass through this system.
He reiterates this point. Souls, or quanta, that enters this physical realm are affected by the close proximity of these two gravitational objects. Now, it's not just the Earth and the Moon. There's other gravitational objects throughout the universe. You have double binary and trinary star systems and black holes and all kinds of stuff going on. We know that souls in a universe will hopefully avoid these more dangerous places because they're highly energetic. We also know that they're attracted to certain of them, certain ones, because they're highly energetic. So you can't really argue that this Earth and Moon combination is unique. It's actually common in the universe. Not the Moon itself. The Earth-Moon arrangement is not common, but the fact that there's gravitational interplays is common. Okay? And that's what's
people that pass through, they feel lost. They don't have an understanding of what's going on. Kind of associated with the losing of memories would make sense. But they have this desire that seems to remain consistent through them, even though through this feeling of lost. More work describes that it's a little bit more specific. It actually gets the information point that these are souls that are being bent back towards the planet. And that the information, that the closest analogy was kind of like gravitational lensing, where if your soul is light, instead of kind of shooting off after you die off the planet, off to somewhere else in the universe, what's occurring is there's a artificial structure that is lensing or curving your light back down to Earth again. And then every time this occurs, it's constantly lensed or pulled back. Shows
Again,
this is an activity.
He talks about chemical changes. I call them quantum changes. These are fundamental changes to things that are going on internally to the makeup of your soul. What's very interesting is that he's saying that these forces, by this gravitational interplay, is creating disruptions in the quantum makeup. Maybe a disruption of memories, maybe other things. Now this differs from what Errol says in Alien Interview. Errol says that there's a tunnel of light that's highly energetic, and it is high energy, and it just washes everything. So it's two different processes. What they're saying, what they're remote viewing, is at odds with what Ariel said. So let me tell you what Domain Commander says. And as far as Domain Commander says, there's two separate processes involved here. There is a tunnel of light, and that differs from the geomagnetic influences of the moon. And you can't lump them all together because that's not the same thing. The geomagnetic influences are trivial matter. The most important issue regarding is the flushing out and the disruption of quanta through the tunnel of light. Therefore, the focus should be on the tunnel of light, not the fencing, which is the purpose of the geomagnetic influences of the moon and its gravitational tidal effects. I hope all you guys understood that. I have no idea what the hell he's talking about. Let's continue. Again, the reiteration here is that the tunnel of light is a different thing than the geomagnetic corralling of this mass. The mass acts as a fencing operation, but the tunnel of light acts as the purging of memories. So it's two separate things, as I interpret it. And whatever gobbledygook the commander had to regurgitate out of my mouth is valid. So let's just leave it at that, huh? Okay.
Is powering a massive rotating object that visually appears like an axle in space. It's fluctuating and absorbing energy that's created by this lensing effect. So the act of actually creating the lensing, of sending the light soul back to Earth, generates energy inside of this large structure. And it seems to be, there's chemicals that seem to be involved, at least that's our vocabulary to describe what's going on. Something's being bombarded, there's a destructive process, which I'll get into a little bit further in the work.
Again, the point reiterates, all of these blind remote viewers are saying the same thing. That there is a gravitational lensing effect that kind of tosses everything away in a quantum sense and throws it right back in. It's acting as a fence. That is different than the tunnel of light. Even though this entire narrative is about a tunnel of light, what they're describing is more akin to a fence. So let's consider this as a fence. Let's consider this moon and Earth as a fence. Sort of like, have you ever played in the pool when you were a little kid? And as soon as you got out of the pool, your dad would run up and grab you and throw you back into the pool. It's like that. It's a fence. You're not allowed out.
There's actually a fracturing that occurs to force this light, this soul, to kind of come back down to the planet again for a second, third.
So this entire video here is basically saying the same thing. He's using the different remote viewers, saying the same possible things. There's a geomagnetic component. It's acting as a fencing. It may or it does affect quanta, and it will cause boomerangs and confusion and everything, and disruption. That's okay. I have no problem with that. But what I do have a problem is it is not the tunnel of light. Okay? So whatever this information does, however it can be of help to you, I hope it is. Hopefully DM is going to go throw his 2 cents in later on down the pipe and have something to say about all this. In the meantime, whatever happens, guys, just take this as a grain of salt. Let it stir in your mind and understand things that gravitational influences do affect quanta, or at least the more coarser areas of quanta, the lower energy coarser areas of quanta, the ones that are associated with your consciousness, and that will cause confusion. And perhaps that confusion is the gray that I experienced when I was first being born, and I entered into this gray fog kind of thing where I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. Perhaps it's that simple. Perhaps. And with that, people, take care and know I believe in you, and that's all that matters.
蠢蠢欲动发力，人各有命，天注定的力量足够碎了这天地。前锋10点压落后，战斗守护领老子还有6，守护着前往的王类的诺言，誓死不忘。狭路相逢，纵有千军万马，怎敌他大雁裂空吹？
说是把我身躯净化亡魂，召唤我的守护灵，解锁封印。要是那些来自黑暗的势力，傲视群雄，看看我的智慧，让我更坚强。在前有灵怀，守护一方千年太平，怎奈恶灵环伺，小小打破安宁。睁开佛心莲，解修罗破除致命，撕开谜的边界，看我踏入地狱，拉回迷途的灵
伟大的
神。
线上，武山区的觉醒，让我化身修罗，穿上铠甲，决斗暗影。看10点阎罗，把封印统统解锁。命运只是那些弱者自己给自己的枷锁。
居住点位下后，双手守护灵力觉醒，山河虚晃炸掉，一路冲击战斗到底。你听，只这唯一形成的声音，被我送入地狱的灵发出的指引。